for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
All right, folks, so mark your calendars for July 16th. Mark them down, July 16th. We want to see you at Sand Spring Country Club, and the event starts at 6:30, goes to 9 p.m. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the Lupus Foundation of Pennsylvania. Now, folks, the speaker that's going to be there that night, Dr. Andrew Newberg, who I have on the phone right now, is absolutely fantastic. I've been talking about this for years, about why we believe what we believe, how benefits affect our health, God and health, etc. Is a fascinating person. If you recall, maybe last year, if you go to our website, ssptv.com, and the Sam Lesante shows, last year we had Dr. Newberg on the phone. Hope we'll have him on the studio sometime. But joining me also is the representative for Luzerne County, Cindy Donlan, who is no stranger here on Channel 13. But I have on the phone Dr. Andrew Newberg. Now, Dr. Andrew is the Director of Research at the Jefferson Murner Brine Center of Integrative Medicine, and is a physician at Jefferson University Hospital. He is board certified in internal medicine, nuclear medicine, and nuclear cardiology. Now, he has been asking questions about reality, truth, and God since he was very young, and he has been fascinated by the human mind and its complex workings. Doctor, how are you?
Good, thanks. Thanks for having me on your program.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Doctor. Doctor, tell me about this interesting thing. You've been involved in the study of religious and spiritual experiences and the relationship among the brain, religion, and health. Boy, that's a lot.
It is a lot. Well, I think it really started with the relationship between the brain and our religious and spiritual experiences and practices. When you start to think about all the different ways in which people are religious or spiritual, going to church, praying, meditating, ultimately what's going on when a person does that is there's something got to be going on in their brain. And in the last 15, 20 years, we've had an opportunity to be able to explore that more specifically by using a variety of different brain imaging techniques to be able to actually peer inside of the brain to see what's going on inside of the brain when somebody does something like meditation or prayer, and try to figure out exactly what's happening in the brain, and then ultimately use that information to inform us as to how our religious or spiritual selves or these kinds of practices may have a potential benefit in terms of feelings of depression, anxiety, our overall health and well-being. So it really is a very integrated kind of approach to looking at the relationship between our health, our brain, our spiritual selves, and trying to put it all together to make some sense and to help us understand it better.
In your book, Principles of Neurotheology, a culmination of ideas based on your research that you've done over 10 years, okay? What specifically are some of the highlights in that book? And folks, you should get the book. It's amazing. Principles of Neurotheology. What are some of the key things that you present in this book, Doctor?
Well, I think one of the main things is to really just introduce people to this whole field. And as you mentioned, the term neurotheology is something that's a relatively new idea. It's the idea of how do we bring together what we can learn through science, and particularly neuroscience, and how the brain works, with how we think about our beliefs and our spiritual selves, our practices like meditation and prayer. And then through that process, we can start to better understand the intricate workings of the brain, how our health and well-being can be supported through our religious and spiritual selves, and to some degree thinking about when some things might go in the negative side. We see this all the time in the news when you start hearing about terrorists and all the different conflicts between different religious groups throughout the world, the Middle East and so forth. What's going on there? Why is it that somebody who is very religious can become enormously compassionate in one way, or somebody can be very hateful and very violent another way? Ultimately, something's going on in the human brain. And so in the book, we talk about all these different possibilities, all the things that we can look at, and also review what's already known, all of the research studies, the growing body of research that's out there now that has looked at the brain's function and all the different brain scan studies we've done of prayer, meditation, speaking in tongues, all the different practices and experiences that people can have through their religious and spiritual selves.
When you says How God Changes Your Brain, this is another book that you co-authored, How God Changes Your Brain and Why God Won't Go Away, Brain Science and the Biology of Belief. Now, okay, you're Jewish, aren't you, Doctor?
Yes.
Okay. Now, sometimes when we talk about prayer and we talk about God, people have a tendency, I don't know why, but we're becoming, I think, more secular than and prayer is, everything goes to science now. Some people throw their, well, it's all science. Prayer has nothing to do with this. God has nothing to do with me getting better or the surgeries or whatever. What do you say to those doubting Thomases out there, Doctor?
Well, I think that's also an important part of neurotheology, which is that it's not just a neuroscience of religion. It's not just trying to reduce everything to a scientific way of thinking about things, as you said, and appropriately so. Many people start to go down that path. To me, what neurotheology is all about is really helping to preserve both sides of this whole equation, helping to preserve what science is and what science can tell us about the world and our brain, but also preserving the value and the importance and the meaning of what religious and spiritual traditions have given us for thousands of years. I don't think that science and religion have to necessarily be at odds with each other. I mean, certainly there are times where they will be, but I think that there are very constructive ways in which both sides can learn from each other and learn about the importance of what it ultimately means to be a human being and how we as human beings actually work and interact with our world. And I think that what the science actually has started to show us is how important religious and spiritual beliefs can be for people, and obviously not for everyone, but for those people who are religious and spiritual, there can be huge benefits that people derive from them. They can be very powerful sources for coping, for dealing with disease, for helping them overcome the various issues and problems that they face in their life. I think part of what this research is actually showing is the importance of both sides and is the importance of exploring our world, exploring ourselves, both scientifically as well as spiritually.
What have you found, Doctor, in your studies you focused on how brain functions associated with various mental states. When you're talking to a patient who is spiritual and prays, no matter what religion they are, versus a person who doesn't believe in spirituality, but here a science person, what have you found in terms of the patient's results of whatever the case may be?
Well, I think we've looked at a variety of different studies, and I think in a very simplistic way, when people engage their religious or spiritual selves, they activate lots of different parts of the brain, and a lot of good parts of the brain. They activate the emotional centers of the brain, the areas of our brain that help us to interact socially with other people and to better our interactions with other people. And when we've actually done studies where we've looked at whether or not these practices can be beneficial in terms of feelings of depression or anxiety or helping to improve the brain's function, we're starting to see evidence that these kinds of practices really do support our overall health and well-being. And, of course, if you are a religious or spiritual person, I think the upshot of this is that it's a very helpful and a very good way of trying to engage those parts of yourselves, not just for the spiritual component, not just for the religious component, but because it also happens to be beneficial to you as an individual. For those people who are not religious, that's also why we've seen so many developments of secular practices that are kind of based off of spiritual ones, things like yoga and meditation practices that I always encourage people, even if they're not religious, to look into those possibilities as well, because they also have benefit for the individual. Now, I think what some of the research shows is that the more you believe in something, the more you have a vested interest, the more it makes sense to you, the more it's a part of your life, the stronger the effect is going to be. So if you do a prayer practice because it has a tremendous amount of meaning for you, then it's going to really have a big impact on your brain and ultimately your overall psychological and physical health. If you are not a religious person, obviously you shouldn't do a prayer that you don't feel comfortable with, but if you can engage a meditation practice that you like, that you feel good about, then that's going to provide benefit for you as well. And ultimately it'll be, to some degree, a matter of degree and a matter of how much each individual person engages those different practices. But another thing that I think has also come about, which is really important, is that it doesn't necessarily take a lifetime or hours and hours of doing these practices. Sometimes you can derive benefit from doing something, at your desk at work for a minute or two, just by focusing on your breathing or just kind of slowing your mind down and just concentrating on just a happy thought or a place that you love going to or something like that. These are great, very brief exercises that actually have a pretty big effect on the brain and can actually change the way you're functioning in that moment and in that day.
I'm going to ask you two questions. I'll let you go, Doctor. Okay. Number one, I'm a practicing Catholic. Of course, we're all sinners, but I'm a firm believer in prayer because I find it interesting when people who are not, don't go to church, no matter what church it is, when someone gets sick in their family, they're asking for people to pray for them, which I think is great. But I wish they would pray themselves too and practice their religion. The second thing is prayer. I want to find out how strong prayer is. The second thing is, do you believe in miracles?
So, well, I mean, prayer. Let me start with your first question. I mean, prayer certainly, can be very powerful, and we've done studies. I did a study with a student of mine where we just looked at doing the practice of the Rosary, and it had a very significant impact just on reducing a person's feelings of anxiety. Now, obviously, I mean, I think a very critical piece to this is that we're also not saying be religious because it's good for you. I mean, people should be religious because they believe in it and because it has meaning for them. These are sort of ancillary benefits that if you can engage these beliefs and these practices in a beneficial way for you, then all the better. But I never want to make it sound like, well, people should do the Rosary because it will reduce your anxiety. But if you love to do the Rosary, if it's an important part of your beliefs and your tradition and something that you enjoy doing, then by all means do it because it's going to be helpful to you. And I think in that regard, we see very powerful changes both in terms of how people feel and also in the brain itself. So I think that there's some very strong effects of these kinds of practices. As to miracles, as a scientist, I always have to be open to both sides. To me, I think it's always important to be open to all the possibilities. And I have no problem saying maybe these miracles have occurred and we need to look at them. We need to see if there's any other explanations. And ultimately, if there are none, then maybe miracles really do happen. And but I think, to me, this is part of where this whole neurotheology piece comes in, because we want to use science and the spiritual to look at these incredible things, look at experiences like miracles, look at spontaneous healings, to look at when people feel that they've been converted or had some kind of contact with God. I mean, what do these all mean for people? And looking at it both from the spiritual and religious side as well as from a scientific side, I think helps us to enhance and deepen our understanding of ourselves, our understanding of our relationship with God or whatever a person considers to be sacred, and ultimately our health and well-being as well. So I think there's so much for us to learn, and to me, it's just a very exciting field for us to continue to explore and to look at all the different possibilities, to be open to the possibilities, and to keep asking questions and keep trying to figure all these things out. I think that's what life is ultimately all about. We were put here with an incredible brain that can explore lots of different questions and lots of different things about our world and our universe. And I think we need to put all of our faculties and abilities together to use them and to try to be the best kinds of people we can.
Well, Doctor, I want to tell you, it's fascinating. I really looking forward to having you on my show so we can do a more specific, detailed interview. But when you're talking about, as I said, I'm a practicing Catholic, and I have a lot of Protestant friends, Jewish friends that you go to their church services, and I think it's a great thing. When you talk about anxiety, you're talking to a person who prays the Rosary every day. I'm not that I'm a saint by no means, but on my way to work, instead of listening to radio and all the junk that's happening with the news, I say a Rosary only to give myself sanity, really, just to give myself sanity, and it does help on the anxiety thing. First of all, I want to applaud you, Doctor. You're going to be here, and folks, I said July the 16th at the Sand Springs Country Club.
Excellent.
We'll have Cindy talk a little bit more about this as a whole but it's open to the public, and he'll be here. The book is Principles of Neurotheology. There's another book, How God Changes Your Brain and Why God Won't Go Away. A lot of people want him to go away, but he's not going away. And Brain Science and the Biology of Belief. He's a great guy. And Doc, I wish you the best. I'm certainly looking forward to having you on my set.
Thank you so much. I'd love to do it.
Okay,
Doc. I'll see you on the 16th, Doc.
Cindy said she'll see you on the 16th, okay?
You bet.
Thank you, Doctor.
Good.
That's Dr. Andrew Newberg, folks. He is the Director of Research at Jefferson Myrna Bryan Center of Integrative Medicine and a physician at Jefferson Hospital. It's interesting, folks, how he ties everything in. And I said before, how many of us who are watching maybe don't practice whatever religion, but the point is when something happens in your family, the first thing people say is, could you pray for my dad, my mom, my sister, my son, my daughter, my aunt, whatever the case may be, and we're out there looking for that. What does it do as far as helping the brain out? And it would be a better world. And remember, we're all sinners. There's no question about that, period. I'm far from being a saint. But the point is, we need that spiritual direction. Now, July 16th, it's happening at the Sand Spring Country Club. When we come back after break, Cindy Donlan's here, and she's going to talk about other things that are happening. It's a great event, and it benefits lupus. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us, folks. You're watching the Sam Lesante Show. Remember, ssptv.com. You can watch all of our shows. And remember, we're seen on Channel 190 on the Comcast system in the Pottsville area, Channel 30 up here on Service Electric Cablevision, and Channel 19 soon coming on the MetroCast system. And of course, folks, we have other shows on WFMZ and also in the Philadelphia market area. But we want to remind the people in Pottsville, 190. My guest today is Cindy Donlan. Now, you just heard Dr. Newberg on his fascinating person, folks, why we believe what we believe, how beliefs affect our health. He's going to be here at the Sand Spring Country Club on July 16th. And Cindy, tell me how, this is for lupus, but tell me, those are two great days that you guys have.
Right.
But this is, the first day is open to the public, right?
Right. We want people to understand that there's two components to coping with an illness. First of all, you have the medical component, understanding your condition and your disease. But you also have a spiritual component. You need to have faith. You need to be able to believe in yourself and a God or an entity to be able to cope with the condition. So we want to give both aspects to our patients and to the community. We want to educate people on the fact that there is hope in the world. The way things are so negative anymore, I want to bring out the fact that God still exists and he does stay a part of our life. So that's the first important thing. That's why the first night is that talk. And then the second day we have a conference. It is from 8:30 in the morning till 5 o'clock at night. We have a microbiologist coming from Commonwealth Medical College to talk about your immune system and autoimmunity, how you can tell the difference between Lyme disease and lupus and infections. Our keynote speaker that day is actually another exciting field. It's called psychoneuroimmunology, the connection between your brain and your immune system. We have a professor coming from Rutgers University to talk about how your brain affects your immune system. Fascinating discussion. Then we have a talk on interpreting lab results, knowing the difference between a BMP and a CMP. If you're going to be proactive with your condition, you need to know how to interpret lab results. We have a kidney specialist coming in the afternoon to talk about kidney diseases because lupus is very much involved with the kidneys. Then we have a professor coming, a college professor, to talk about dealing with students with chronic illness in the classroom. Children get autoimmune diseases as well. And finally, Dr. Schleicher is going to be coming to talk about dermatology, skin conditions such as psoriasis, psoriatic arthritis, and how lupus is also very much involved with the skin. That's the conference. The whole entire day filled with workshops. We have a breakfast and a lunch included, and that's all $30 for our general public and $20 for lupus patients and their families. I think that's a great deal. You're getting a lot of education. That's what we're all about. And the money we made from the Taming of the Wolf Festival, by the way, is going into this conference. That's why we're able to give these discounts, and we were able to pay for the speakers that we're getting from the money we got from the Wolf Festival. So you can see that staying locally, the money that we raise stays with our public down here.
You have a powerhouse of 2 days.
Absolutely.
I mean, what you just said, for those, our viewers out there, if they only go to one or two of these sessions,
right,
okay, they're going to learn so much. I mean, you just heard Dr. Newberg, folks, on the phone talking about what he's going to be. Now, he's there July 16th, okay?
Right.
I'm going to put Cindy's number on the screen so
Please
you can
do.
call her, and it's 570-956-0072. Now, the event Wednesday night is $30 for the general public, okay? And that gives you a beautiful, beautiful buffet. And if you've eaten at Sand Springs, the food is fantastic. It's a great buffet. And he is going to deliver that speech or talk and answer your questions. You
Yes.
just saw a little bit about what he could do on my show here today. But the next day, this day that you're breaking down, you went through this rather quickly, okay?
Okay, I'm sorry.
But no, I understand that. But there's so many,
Right.
doing health shows since 1994, believe me, Cindy, I could fully appreciate what all this information has.
Right.
And for anybody who was, so let's take the
Sure.
the first segment of the morning. Now, this is not the 16th.
This is the 17th.
This is the next day, okay?
Right.
It starts at 8:30 in the morning, okay? And your keynote address is by from Dr. Alex Kurzikow.
Kirshnikov.
And who is he?
He is a psychoneuroimmunologist.
What do they do?
They study the connection between your brain and your immune system.
Okay.
How stress can actually affect your immune system. They're doing studies with Alzheimer's, not just autoimmune diseases, but other illnesses as well, diabetes and everything else. When you have a stress level, it can affect your immune system. And the way you think could also affect your immune system. And positivity will help you heal better. Goes along with the prayer thing that we were talking about the day before. That's why I thought they would tie in kind of, better. This is from the science aspect. That was more from the theological aspect. But he's going to be coming from Rutgers University. He is originally from Australia. He is one of the pioneers in the field. He's going to be coming to talk. He's our keynote speaker. And then after he's done, the next talk is going to be autoimmunity and immunity. A lot of times you cannot tell the difference between conditions like Lyme disease, which is from an infection from ticks, or from like lupus, which is just your immune system kicking in. How do you know the difference between your body attacking itself or something foreign coming into your body to attack? They're going to discuss the differences between Epstein-Barr virus and different viruses that you can get, and also lupus and autoimmune diseases. How do you tell the difference? She's a microbiologist. She teaches up at Commonwealth Medical College. She's going to be presenting. And then the next talk is going to be on interpreting lab results. How do you know the difference between a BMP and a CMP? How do you know how to tell if it's at a critical level? Urine tests, autoimmune diseases like the ANA. What's the ANA all about? We're going to teach you a little bit about that so you can be more of a better consumer when you go to a doctor and they're discussing your case. You'll understand that talk shop a little bit. Know how to interpret your lab results. It's important to keep control of your condition to know when you're flaring up or not. You don't know that unless you know how to interpret your lab results yourself. Then we're going to have lunch, and we're having a great lunch. It's going to be, we also have gluten items for people that have celiac problems or diabetics or vegans. We have options for you people too. We have the lunch included. Then following that, we have a talk in the afternoon from a kidney specialist. Dr. Jack Pryor is coming down from Scranton to talk about kidney diseases and autoimmunity. Yeah, lupus is very, very involved with the kidneys, but there's also other conditions like Wegener's and Church-Strauss and other conditions that affect the kidneys. He'll be discussing that. Then we have a professor who also teaches at the Magnet School in Hazleton, Mr. Boris. He's going to talk about dealing with students in a class with chronic illnesses and how parents can help their children who have chronic illnesses get better schooling experience. And in the afternoon is Dr. Stephen Schleicher to discuss autoimmunity and your skin. Lupus is very much involved with the skin, but you have psoriatic arthritis, you have other conditions that affect the skin. He'll also be discussing those as well. We wanted to give a full picture of what autoimmunity is all about and illnesses that deal with autoimmunity. And this is what we're doing. And it's only going to cost $30 for general public and $20 for lupus patients. And that's because of the money we raised from the Wolf Festival. And it's because of the media helping us like, Sammy, that we could do this. Because
when you're looking at this day, okay, there may be one part, for example, if you have a kid with chronic illnesses, okay, you may want to get there in the afternoon to hear Mr. Boris. You may want to talk to, if you're having kidneys, I like this, Let's Go Renal, with Dr. Jack Breyer. There's a fabulous array of doctors. Where can you go and at one place and get all these people that will give you information? And folks, that's what we're all about. Information. The more information you know about your health or whatever it helps out. That's the purpose of I think, my show.
the more educated you are, the more control you have over your situation. That's what it's all about.
We got 2 minutes left. You're a miracle person yourself. I mean, you suffered from lupus. You've been here so many times talking about it. You're now studying to be a doctor. You have an A average. So you yourself, Cindy, you say your prayers, and God's been very good, hasn't He?
Honey, God's the only reason I'm doing so well. I mean, sometimes I wonder how it's all happening. He's challenging me. I was put on a boat, swallowed by the whale, and spit out on land, just like Jonah. I have to go where God takes me. That's as simple as it. And I ask you in the community, as to talking about spirituality, to pray for me, for the success of me to continue down this path to medical school, and that I can provide the community with support for lupus for years to come. We're here for you guys. If you need anybody to talk to, that's what we're all about. You could call my cell phone number, 956-0072, if you have any questions about lupus. And if you want to sign up for the conference, you could do it online. We have a website address. and we're taking credit card, checks, money. We'll take whatever you want to give us. And we hope to see you there because it is something that I think everybody will benefit. You don't have to even have lupus. You could be a college student.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, I mean, the second day. I mean, even the first day with Dr. Newberg, just his book, etc. Well, Cindy, it's always a pleasure having you. I wish you the very best. Tell your Franny and his wife I said hi. Okay.
I will do that, and God bless you. Because this is a good man. He provides the community with education.
Yeah, stop it. It's only when I talk in political, then people get crazy. Yeah, Lesante's on his tangent again. Cindy Donlan, folks, 956-0072. 956-0072. Two events, July 16th, fabulous. July 17th, fabulous. At the Sand Spring Country Club, fabulous. You're going to love the food. The chef does a fabulous job down there. It's going for a good cause. But most importantly, folks, it's information that you can really, it can help you become a better person or enjoy a better, healthy life, okay? So that's 956-0072. 570 is the area code. Once again, thank you for watching the Sam Lesante Show. I really appreciate it. We'll see you next time.